So in this video, we're gonna find out if the cold steel AK-47 field knife is as reliable as the gun it's named after. The blade is like amazing. So if you folks have been following the channel for a while, you know I totally gravitate to that kind of field knife, tactical, utility blade. I love those styles. There's a lot of functionality to them. And so ever since Cold Steel released the AK-47 field knife, based off of their AK-47 pocket knives that we've previously reviewed, just basically making it into a fixed blade, when I saw it, I said, I gotta get my hands on it, see how the blade performs, but also see how this handle performs. And that's really what we're gonna look at today. We're gonna totally break this thing down, show you what it can do, what it can't do, and whether or not the ergonomics are good or are there some major hang-ups with this design. So let's go ahead, jump to it, and see what this blade can do. All right, well, let's go ahead and hit the profile of the blade and the actual performance on the blade itself. Now, I love the looks of it, totally love it. That nice blacked out coating is holding up really well after the batoning and chopping and hacking and everything we've been doing with the blade. Holding up really well. That oil was in the sheath. It is that CPM 3V steel, great high carbon steel, more rust resistant than your 1095s and those type of things, but you know, it would be good if you're in a very high humid environment to put a little bit of oil on there. That's just how it came. Great relief edge, folks. I mean, mind-blowing. So the cutting aspect with this knife was really, really good. I was super happy with how it performed, not only with like rubber and nylon and, you know, like if you were in a Humvee and you're a soldier and it like rolled over and you got to cut yourself out or, you know, go through webbing, you know, paratrooper, whatever, however, it's going to just slice through that. And then all of the bushcraft stuff, you know, if you were using this as a field knife out in the woods, I mean, the relief edge is insane. Feather stick making was easy. Notching for this type of knife was easy. Really impressed with that, and held a great edge with the harder task, much better than the 1095s and 5160s that would be out there because of that CPM 3V steel with the batoning and the chopping and those type of things. Really worked well. The blade length is 5.5. The cutting edge is 5 1/4. It's going to be 0.2 on the thickness, which I think for like this style idea of knife is great. 1/4 inch, I believe, on this size of knife is a little overkill. I think of like the BK2 and the SE5. You know, there are positives to that 1/4 inch, but for being more of a combat utility knife that this AK-47 is, I think the 0.2 is a great thickness. The clip is really nice and thick. It will damage your batoning stick some, not a lot though, and the swedge is not super sharp, which is a positive, meaning that it's going to be super strong all the way through the knife. Very, very strong. I mean, like an AK-47 would be, this is going to be a very tough, reliable knife in that sense. You know, it's something you can rely on. You know, we didn't have any bending, flexing, you know, concerns when we were splitting through the wood. You know, stabbing and penetrating, it's going to do great in that regard. So when it comes to the overall performance of the knife, it does have, I believe, a 90-degree spine, or if not almost. But overall, guys, with the performance of the knife, very, very happy with just the layout of the blade itself and the relief edge, the saber grind, all of those things just working together. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit the price on this knife. Now, it fluctuates anywhere between $130 and $150, just depends on who, what, when, where, why. We will have links in the description below over to Amazon as well as Blade HQ when you guys use those hyperlinks. Regardless if it's for this knife or any other product that you're seeing on these videos, we get a small kickback, helps me get out there, purchase gear just like this, so I can give you guys full, honest, comprehensive videos. So thank you for using those hyperlinks. And for that price, even though this is put together in Taiwan, it has the USA-made CPM 3V steel, which is phenomenal steel. I love it. It has great edge retention, much better than, say, like your 1095s or 5160s that you would usually see a lot of field knife, you know, soldier knives made out of. You're gonna have a lot longer edge retention, which is great. And for a knife with that type of steel and the materials that we're seeing, it's a very reasonable price point. So I like that aspect. It really comes down to whether or not the performances we're talking about today matches up with that compared to what else is on the market. But I believe for the materials, and particularly the steel that you're getting for this knife, it's very reasonable for what they're asking for. All right, so we're gonna break down the sheath on this knife. Now there's SecureX molded plastic sheath. We see this a lot on a lot of cold steel knives. I like it for the price point that most knives come in from cold steel. I think it's great. You're gonna get good lashing points. You got a good drainage hole. You know, it's way better than say like a nylon sheath. It's ambidextrous, which is great. So you can take this entire webbing portion, screw it onto the other side for you lefties out there. You got Velcro and a button so you can put it on your larger belts easily without having to take your belt off. I always like that aspect. The thing to note is that this is the least fitted SecureX sheath I've seen from cold steel, meaning that without hardly any effort, I can pull that out and expose about 2 inches of the blade. Now, thankfully, the button strap here keeps it from completely falling out, but there's just not a lot of retention here around the guard. I would have liked to see a lot more. You have a nice thumb ramp, so it's easy to pull off, but you can see there's just not a lot. Now, you could heat it up with a heat gun, try and kind of mold that, but it's just kind of boxed in there, if you guys can see that. And there just isn't that much friction that you would want. So I would not, at least out of the box, you know, run this like this upside down without that nylon webbing. And without too much effort, I could easily remove that. It could fall out, you know, those type of things. So for belt carry, it's okay. If you're gonna carry this thing regularly, particularly upside down, like on a vest or something like that, you will definitely wanna jack around with this sheath and try and heat it up and kind of mold it and give you some more friction there. So it's doable. It's not the best SecureX sheath that I've seen from cold steel. All right, so now time to talk about the handle. Now what we're looking at is from front to back, overall length 4.875, so a little short, G10 handles, full tank construction, obviously, so super nice and strong, nice and thick in that regard. The handle thickness is the first thing. It's pretty narrow for this type of knife and how big this knife is overall. It comes in at 0.56, so just a hair under half an inch thick. Even as an example, my Mora heavy duty companion has a thicker handle. So it's kind of narrow, you know, for extended use. You have a narrower handle here. So for carrying on an LBE system and maybe, you know, with all your other gear, that might be a little bit of a bonus. But when in overall ergonomics, that's the first thing that I noticed was that it was a little narrow in its thickness. I would have liked to have it a little fuller on those G10 handle scales. They're going to be really heavily textured like a lot of cold steel knives that we know. Has the exact same kind of idea as the original AK-47, but just like the AK-47 firearm, which has really, in my mind, goofy ergonomics and goofy controls. The stock on an on an AK is too short for me. The controls are on the left-hand side, so it makes it awkward for me, or on the right-hand side, excuse me, so it makes it awkward for me to use my less dominant hand. And it's just a goofy, not really intuitive firearm. In the same way, I'm sad to say, the handle is the same way. It's goofy and it's not comfortable and it's not very useful in my opinion. And I'm really sorry to say that. Really the only way that this seems to work is when I use a reverse grip and I do it like this. This is the only way that it really feels natural. So if I'm, you know, stabbing a bad guy in a reverse grip, pulling it off an LBE system, that's about the only thing that I really feel it fitting well in. Because when I hold it in this profile with my large size hands, as you guys know, this dropout and this cutout just makes it feel very goofy. This abrupt angle here definitely creates a hot spot, and it creates this kind of odd 45-degree angle to the knife instead of a natural, you know, almost 90-degree angle like any other natural handled knife, because your hand wants to kind of come in at this angle versus come in at a natural point. Because if you try to do that natural grip like this, you can see my pinky rest right there on that hump. It wants to go right there, but it can't. So now I'm forced to come back here. And now I'm kind of far away from this really nice deep guard, good blocky jimping. So again, for tactical application, it's fine. For stabbing, you're really locked in. But now I just have this really weird angle, and it was just not comfortable, guys. Creating hot spots here, and giving me a not natural grip when I'm cutting through particularly the like feather stick making, notching that I was doing, and that type of thing. It just was not pleasant to use. So I really ergonomically, you know, even in this nice big pommel back here is nice, that non-lethal, but it just has a goofy layout like the AK-47 firearm. It reminds me of that. It's just being goofy and not intuitive and not fun to use for an extended period of time. So I'm really sad to say that. I want to love the knife. If it just had a more natural, you know, handle like this, where they just maybe brought it straight off the back, gave us a nice angled pommel, it would be fantastic. I'd love it. And maybe a little bit of a fuller handle. But as it stands right now, it's just not intuitive to my hand, and I don't enjoy using it for an extended period of time. So in conclusion, final thoughts on the knife. Would I buy it? I wouldn't. There's just not enough going for it in the ergonomic area to make me want to use this on a regular basis. I think everything else in the layout, the blade itself is awesome. The relief edge they put on it, you know, the material, the price, all those things really work together. And I think if this had a completely different handle on it, it would be phenomenal. And just, you know, straight off the back, like we see with a lot of other blades. But because they're going with that AK-47 from their other designs, I think it just really hinders its overall usability. Every time, regardless if it was going through, you know, material, rubber, man-made stuff, if it's going through the wood like we talked about, I'm just getting hot spots right away, and I can't wait to dump the knife and move on to a different blade, you know, and use it. So I'm really sad. I don't want to have to give you that, you know, bad piece of news. And that's what I was concerned about when this first was released. I said, wow, everything about that knife really connects with me except for the handle, and I'm really concerned that that handle is going to be the downfall of the knife. And in my opinion, it is. I would love to see some sort of rendition in the future where they just completely go back to a more standard, you know, design and remove a lot of these hooks and humps and the angles that they have. And I think it would be a phenomenal blade. But as it stands right now, this would not be a knife that I would carry on my LBE system, regardless if it was for my run and gun and, you know, that type of thing, or for, you know, a survival knife. I wouldn't use it for either category, in my opinion. So I just think Cold Steel makes other fixed blades that would be better suited for that, and other companies as well. So guys, I hope this video has helped you out decide whether or not the AK-47 field knife is the right tool for you. Thank you so much for coming over here today and checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. If you're not a regular subscriber, I invite you to become part of the GT family. We're throwing up videos like this every single week, giving you guys full, honest, comprehensive videos. And finally, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.